Today, let's show you how to work towards the pike push-up with a toe float. This is fantastic if we're working towards things like handstand push-ups because we can add some movement in that allows us to nearly catapult up to our handstand position. That actually makes it much easier to get to handstand than if we just tried to push out of something like a headstand. This can be done from this position when I push up like that, but it takes way more strength and control to get up. But if we get the timing correct with that pike push-up, that's a way of entering the handstand that's really cool. But it also does another thing. It really controls or gives us lots of conditioning in the bottom of the handstand push-up. Now, the bottom of the handstand push-up is this position where not that many people can hold for any amount of time. And if we think what needs to happen there, we need to have really good control because that's the point at where we change direction on a standard handstand push-up. So if I'm in a handstand like so and I want to do a handstand push-up, I need to come down here with confidence, control, be able to hold that position because I need to be able to push back out and not be using loads of energy at the bottom there to hold position. It's a bit like doing a squat and not being able to hold the bottom position of the squat. You're not going to be able to find a stable base to push off to come back up again. Exactly the same happens in the bottom of that handstand push-up. Now, before we start getting to the point where we start thinking about floating the feet off, there's some prerequisites. There's some things that we should be able to do. We need to have really good strength and control in the standard pike push-up. Now, the standard pike push-up is going to look a little bit different for everyone, but basically we start in a up position where the arms are straight. I like to open the shoulders in this position as well. I don't like to stop here. I like the finish to be there because that's the same as the standard handstand push-up. And then I'm going to come forwards, I'm going to bend the arms, bring the head down to create a triangle between the head and the hands, and then push all the way back up again. Now, we ideally need some strength there to get, 3 to 5 repetitions with control. We also need a certain amount of flexibility. Now, you don't need to have a super deep forward fold position, but we need to get into a somewhat comfortable position, say when our body's like this. So when I'm at 90 degrees at the hip, we ideally will have a flat low back in that position. This is a good position to get for anyone because that's the position you need to be able to get to be able to sit in a seated upright position on the floor without feeling like you're going to fall backwards. And whatever version of the pike push-up you do, you need to get into somewhat 90-degree position at the hip. Now, you can make that slightly easier by bending the knees a little bit, taking the feet a little bit wider. And that's why everyone's position might look slightly different. So someone might do it very strict like this, where someone else might be somewhere in the middle with knees bent like that and find that way more comfortable. You just don't want to be using up energy to create the position. So if you have to really force yourself into a deep forward fold, you might be able to get there, but if it's using lots of energy to get there, you're not going to have that energy to do the pike push-up, to do the handstand push-up, to get those toes to float. Once we've got those things, we need to do a little bit of an assessment. Set the camera up like I've got so it's sideways on, and then we want to look at where the hip crease is coming on your standard pike push-up. So we're looking at where this point gets to relevant to the hands. So if I put the heel of the palm on this line like this, actually let's move you directly on that line as well. So we're going to be looking straight down this line, heels of the palm there, and then I'm going to go into the bottom of my pike push-up with the head just kissing the floor or just off like so, and I'm looking, where's my hip crease relevant to this line? The closer we are to the point where our toes float because we have a good distribution of weight on this side compared to this side. If I'm in the pike push-up like this, you can see I've got way too much weight backwards. So if I can get that hip closer to being on the heel of the palm, I can hold in that position and then I might be able to float, or I might just be able to feel that there's no weight in our toes. We want to get to the point where our toes feel like this and they're not got lots and lots of weight in them. And moving that hip into the correct position is half of that battle. And then the other thing we need to do is start to create a lot of confidence control in the other side of the hands. So we're very comfortable this way. So we're going to be nice and comfy here. That's like down dog position, all our weight's in our feet. But most people are uncomfortable to go in that direction. So we need to build confidence and control to go there. One of the best exercises you can do for that is use a froggy crow position like this. And then I'm just going to take head down towards the floor, see if I can lift the feet like that. And then see if I can come back up again. I can go between the two. Ideally, I can also go here, lift the knees off, bring the knees back down, push back off again. So I'm building that confidence to take all of the weight in that direction. I can make the feet become light, make the legs become light, lift up, extend the body into that straighter position, like the headstand, come back down again. You could also practice things like shoulder stands. Now, shoulder stands are great because it's easier to lift the feet off the floor when my head goes lower than my hands. So raising the hands up on these boxes or P-bars allows that to happen. I can take the head down below my hands, arms come into the torso, lift the hip nice and high, and look, I can lift the feet. I can even extend up into straighter positions and come back down again, just like going up into a handstand from that pike push-up position. So spend time in that headstand position, spend time in that crow froggy position, through to the headstand and back again. Spend time in the shoulder stand position. Another great drill to take us towards the movement is to do a single leg pike push-up. We're already transferring more weight now into the hands by going this direction. So instead of having a base like that with both legs down, I'm going to have one leg up in the air, and then I'm going to come forwards, elbows on top of the hands, hip crease, heading towards the heel of the palm. There I might be able to lift that toe a little bit, just because this leg is now up, and it could even go over further. So I could bend the knee and take the foot over a bit like a stag position. So there, and that might encourage me to come up as well. Remember, you can use the forehead like a stopper like that, and I'd highly recommend that you take forehead to the floor in handstand push-ups, pike push-ups, and not the nose. The nose creates a lot of extension and this compensates at the neck. Now, if you're already working towards handstand push-ups and you're working eccentrics, so eccentrics is when you start in the handstand and then you slowly come down to this position. You can use this pike position as an exit to come back out. And the cool thing with that is that you're already starting with all the weight in the hands, all the weight in the base being the hands, and then when you get to the bottom, you've only got to transfer weight backwards. So it's a little bit in reverse of going this way and trying to get all the weight out of the legs. All the weight is already out of the legs and in the hands, which is perfect for real slow eccentrics back down. And if you're that advanced where you can do those, you can probably already do this as well, where you're doing crow type movements to handstand, which again is encouraging that movement to go up and forwards into that position where we've got more weight in the base being the hands, taken away from the feet. So start attacking all those things and then just go for glory. See if you can go down and lift up a little bit. You might use a little bit of momentum, but by that time you can do all those other drills. You should feel more and more confident to put weight into the hands, and eventually you'll just get to a point where you feel like you can float, and then you might be able to extend to that position, come back down again, and then you could just do it slower to there, lift up, and then hold, come back down for repetitions, and combine it with your other training depending on what your goals are, whether it's handstand push-ups, press handstands, or planches. And because that press handstand is sort of another way you can attack this, where I could go into the start of my press handstand position, try and get up like this, and then bend the elbows to help lift the feet. So that's very similar. It's more like a hybrid between a press handstand and those pike push-up toe floats. So have fun with it, explore the different drills, do the ones that you really enjoy. It might not be the straight line towards your goals, but consistency is key. So the more you enjoy the exercises, the more you're going to do them. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Check out my app and website if you're after coaching, and I'll speak to you guys in the next one.